I think that we're spending some time here on introverted intuition perspectives, and I think it's an important conversation.
Are you starting important conversations, Joel?
I am. Well, and I'm tuning into that. There is so much, I would argue, analytic, focal point focused, meaning making flying around in the world. I mean, you could argue it's identity stuff, but I don't think it's identity. I think it's meaning making more. Like when someone puts a bunch of like flags in their profile online for whatever political cause or whatever stance they have, no matter what it is, globally, locally, whatever. I don't think that's as much about identity in like an introverted feeling or authenticity way. I think that's more about the meaning making of my life. Like, especially because of a lot of our, modernism's broken down. It's postmodern. So I guess people go through the world saying this themselves unconsciously, although some people say it consciously. I guess I'm deciding the meaning of my life. And whether they know it or not, that's kind of what they're moving through the world with. Now they might latch onto religion or some kind of a social cause or some kind of a institution to help give them some meaning. But often people in a postmodern world are left without like already given to the meaning. And so there's a run to try for people to create the meaning and distribute it out top down and say, here's the meaning you should have in your life. This is the meaning. And if you're not in agreement with this meaning, you got to get in agreement with it or you're bad and wrong. And I see so much of this analytic, assertive, introverted, intuitive perspectives with symbols and flags and I like embodying like social groups and all these like causes and things like I'm taking the meaning on this side, you're the meaning on that side, and we're projecting onto each other things.
With very aggressive visions for a better future.
Exactly. And
whatever that means for the person.
And everybody's got a different view of what that looks like, but they're pretty certain that theirs is the one that's going to make the future better. Like everybody believes that about their vision of the future, at least better for them, right? But most people think it's going to be better for everybody. So I see this as kind of this battle ensuing in the meaning making and the I don't know, the discourse of life through all of these, it's a writ large. And I'm getting the impression it's because we have no space or room for the other part of this perspectives process. A particularly Western culture will not allow it to exist in a real, practical, visceral way. We only will allow it. I mean, sometimes sensations like this too. We only allow it in sports or athletics. We don't want people like climbing trees. It's too unsafe, or, just doing things that are physically like whatever makes sense to them. Just go the direct route. No, you got to take the sidewalk. You can't just walk across that. That's too dangerous to walk there. You might get hurt or something, right? So just like with the sensing world, we have to channel every expression of sensing that's not like contained. We're like, oh my God, we got to contain it and put it to some kind of sport or some kind of activity that has something that captures that. So it's not just rogue. Like people get fearful of it. I think people are fearful of this more holistic perspectives.
Yeah.
They're like, what does that mean? Does that mean some will undermine the aggressive perspective I'm trying to force in the world of the narrative that I think the world, fill in the blank of whatever cause or whatever framework you have. I don't even want to name one because I don't want somebody to latch on the specifics of it. But you could take something that's a cause or a viewpoint or an economic persuasion, capitalism, socialism, communism, something like that. These are all viewpoints and perspectives of how the world should be. And it's kind of a bully, I think, in our modern space. Mm-hmm. And everybody's trying to force me to make the meaning they want me to make. Yeah. And they're trying to force you listening and you, Antonia, to make the meaning they want you to make. And then there's fighting meanings and fighting conflict. And it's like, where's the shaman that's going to kind of just be present to all of it and allow the meaning to emerge rather than trying to top down force it through? And I think that's really the missing energy in our world. A lot. I mean, there's a lot of missing energies, but man, that energy is missing like crazy. Would you agree?
It's a rejection of that level of, like, I'm using the word spirituality because there is a spirit quality to it, but it's a rejection of those things. And
it's primal, it's spiritual, it's shamanistic. It's not rational necessarily.
Right.
Like in a Western mindset, A plus B equals C rational. It's got a whole different thing going on over here.
It's a whole different thing. And it reminds us that transformation isn't something we can force.
Yeah.
That's the reminder of the oracle or the holistic introverted intuition, is that transformation can't always be forced. It can't always happen according to our vision, our tunnel vision.
Or top-down vision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like most transformation is bottom up, actually. It emerges, it happens over time, and we have to be sensitive to opportunities. And so I totally agree. I think society desperately needs more holistic introverted intuition. And you can see why it can get edged out easily because it tends to be lazy.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
It's
just woo woo and weird. And people are like, what are you talking about? That doesn't fit the thing that I was taught in school.
and I don't mean like necessarily like lazy, it can't do work. I mean like it's not. Yeah, it's like if it gets too much pressure or pushback against it, it's not going to necessarily stand its ground.
Yeah.
So we need more of that energy. And so if a person is a native user in that way, like that's the way they trend, then them having enough of the analytic version to make sure that they make a space for themselves and they have a voice and they say like there's more here and maybe your vision is just your vision and maybe it doesn't need to be pushed off on everybody else and maybe transformation happens to some extent more organically. I'm not saying that there's no place for the visionary part. No, I don't think you're saying that either.
Oh no, it's great. It's very useful.
Having a vision for a better future, I think, is part of what makes us human. And also sometimes we need to like let off the pedal a little bit.
I'm talking to you listening right now or watching. You have a more holistic perspectives, no matter where it falls in your personality. I'm talking to you to say, don't hide it.
Right.
Don't fear it. Don't think that it's not welcome. I mean, maybe it isn't welcome in the way you've brought it forward, but the world welcomes it. The world needs it. It's been here. That energy's been here since ancient of days. Like it is an old energy. And in fact, it's something that I think our modern world just completely misses. And we're so digital. This is also very analog too. It's like present to the energies around us. It's hard to kind of replicate it digitally. And so I think even as we move digitally, we're missing more and more of this in our world. And it doesn't have to be super woo. You don't have to light candles and like chant stuff and throw tarot cards around and like approach every single situation like that. It's just making space for some of those kinds of unexplainable phenomena and synchronicities and wisdom that is not rational, direct line thinking. It's more perspectives. It's more opening space and being receptive to the energies at play.
Yeah, and I don't know what his type was necessarily, so I'm not asserting a specific type, but I'm pretty sure somebody like a Joseph Campbell was using the more holistic version of introverted intuition.
Sure.
When he wrote things like Hero with 1,000 Faces. Like what Joseph Campbell did is he normalized and introduced to a wider culture the concept of archetypes.
Yeah.
Right? Like Jung's concept of archetypes, Joseph Campbell turned it into something that people now use in marketing.
Yeah.
Right? The hero's journey. like he made something that could really be embedded into culture. And it helps us tap into archetypal energies. Or like Jean Shanita Boleyn, when she wrote Goddesses in Every Woman and Gods in Every Man. Like those kinds of works help remind us that there are archetypal energies that we can tap into. And we don't have to be quote unquote shamans, like you said.
Yeah.
We can just sort of understand that there are patterns that continue to cycle through. And we're both representatives of those archetypal energies, and we're also seeking them, right? And like we can take them on for ourselves, and that can be transformative. Discovering that I had more of an association with an Aphrodite energy than, say, an Artemis energy literally changed my life. It literally changed my life. It was transformative. All I had to do was read a book, right? So I think you're right. I'm with you on the soapbox.
Okay, I'll step off the soapbox now. It's actually trying to be encouraging to somebody that might feel a little marginalized, bringing this more type of holistic energy out.
Yep.